We've got a great event tonight, and I would like to welcome you all once again to Googleplex. And sorry for the last minute change of venue, but it looks like you found it here, made your way here. I'd like to thank our distinguished panelists. And before I begin, I'd like to make a few short announcements on the WebGuild. Get to the right presentation. Okay. What is the WebGuild? Who are we and what do we do? The WebGuild is the largest professional web organization in Silicon Valley. We focus on three core areas: usability, developed networks, and SEO and SEM marketing. We have about 5,000 people on our mailing list, and through our affiliates, we reach about 25,000 people. About 42% of our members are CXOs, VPs, 41% are technical, 10% are entrepreneurs or self-employed, self-employed, 7% are entrepreneurs. The concentration of the companies that they make up are by from top to bottom: Yahoo, Apple, Google, Microsoft, Cisco, VeriSign, and HP. Sounds like a recruiter's dream right there. Having said that, if you quickly look at our website, it explains our three core areas of expertise, which are usability, developer network, and design. And under usability, Jared Spool, who's a guru in usability, heads that group. He's an advisor to us. The developer network is headed by Bill Scott of Yahoo, who runs one of the people who run the developer network. And the internet marketing group is going to be run by somebody from eBay. I just spoke today with Rajiv Datta, who's the president of PayPal, eBay, and they'll be helping us with some resources in that area. So why is that important? Because based on these three core areas, that's how we come up with our topics. So we find themes that are operating in these three core areas, find companies that are executing on those themes, and find speakers around those themes. In this case, it was vertical search, so we have Become.com, we have Simply Hired, and we have Blinkx.com, companies that are really disrupting the marketplace. So next month we have social search, and we have Dig, Delicious, and Stumble Upon. And the following month we have our conference. I'll get into that a little later. So having said that, if you have any topics or any speakers that you're interested, please go to the website, fill out the form, and we'll do our best to find a speaker in that area. We'll try and have it covered. I'd like to get into a little bit about the conference. The conference is on October, and the theme of the conference is the new web. The focus, again, will be user and the user experience. And having said that, we are the keynote speaker is going to be Ram Sri Ram. Ram was one of the executives at Netscape, at Amazon, and is one of the founding principals of Google. So he has a lot of insight into building consumer internet companies, and he's going to be sharing some of his recipe, in fact, his secret sauce and ingredients of what he's looking for in doing that. The other keynote speaker is Marissa Mayer, who is Google's guru of user experience. So she's going to be talking about what they do to measure the user experience and how they roll out new products across that area. And then it's going to break out into two tracks. The first track is going to be talking about technologies, the methodologies, and the platforms into which the user experience is going. And Jared Spool is going to be talking about usability. Yahoo and Microsoft and a few others are going to be talking about Ajax and other tools that are building the rich internet applications. And finally, Kelly Gautam is going to be talking about the mobile web. And the other track B is going to be talking about how you monetize this user group once you build it and the new ad platforms. So before we wrap up, I turn you over to Reshma, who's going to make the introductions. Next week or later this week, you'll get a survey from us, and we would like to know how we're doing. We'd like to know how your membership is working for you. So before we get into that, I would like to give you some idea of where we fit in the landscape. So some of the groups that we compete with in the events, monthly events area is SD Forum. SD Forum has an annual fee of $125. Each event is $15 to $30, and their focus is basically everything. And there's S-Face. They are about $100, and each event's between $45 to $60, and their focus, I think, is to be like SD Forum. And then there is TIE, and TIE's average annual fee is about $100, and each event is about $25 to $55. And then there is the WebGuild, and we charge $65. That's basically a tank of gas these days. And each event costs about $5, and that's basically less than a cost of a Big Mac and a small fries and a medium Coke, I guess. So I think we deliver excellent value in this space. So why have we been able to go from the bottom to the top and attract keynote speakers? Is because we focus on one thing. That's the web and the 3 core areas in the web. So where we're moving now is into the conference arena. So we have a conference coming up. Our conference is $135. It's going to be jam-packed. It's going to be super. It's the best minds out on the web, and you're going to love it. And we compete with Search Engine Strategies, which charges approximately $1,500, AdTech around $1,500, Ajax World around $1,500, and O'Reilly $3,200. By the way, John Battle, who runs O'Reilly Network, is helping me with some of the speakers, so that's why we've been able to get a huge roster. But having said that, we're not really competing with any of them directly. We're taking the top areas where they're focusing on the web, and that's why you should come. And we are a nonprofit, so we're not in the business to make money. We're in the business to deliver value to you, and if you get value, you come back here. Great. So that was my... I'm sorry?
When is it?
Oh, October 19th. It'll be on our website very shortly. Also, by the end of this week, we'll have our jobs board launched. So again, it's going to be a very focused jobs board, all internet focus. We're going to be giving Craigslist a real run for their money. And the format of tonight's presentation, after Reshma makes introductions, we'll be having a discussion for about an hour and a half, followed that by Q&A. Since we don't have a mic, I think you'll have to come forward, ask a question. This mic apparently does work or doesn't work. It does, okay. That'll be a conclusion. A podcast of this event will be made available on the website within 24 hours. And the speakers will make their presentations available at their discretion. I'd also like to ask you to turn your cell phones and pages as a courtesy to other members. So without further ado, let me turn you over to Reshma, who is going to introduce tonight's speakers. Thank you very much.
You probably won't hear me at all, so I'll be really brief. So tonight we have 3 core speakers and 1 moderator, and I'll just give you a brief background about each of our speakers and moderator. Michael Yang is the founder, president, and CEO of Become.com. Michael is passionate about developing services that help people. He is the co-founder of MySimon and later sold that company to CNET. Become is Michael's latest venture. The company helps people make better shopping decisions, and since its launch in 2005, Become.com has become one of the fastest growing shopping sites. Suranga Chandratillake, founder and CTO of Blinkx, and forgive me if I butcher anyone's names. Suranga is the founder and CTO of Blinkx. He has more than 7 years of frontline experience as a technology innovator. He's Blinkx's CTO. He has developed the world's most comprehensive video search. And our third speaker, Gautam Godhwani, is president of Simply Hired. Gautam has founded 3 ventures in the last 8 years. He's well experienced in starting startups and finding great people to grow them. He's currently CEO and co-founder of Simply Hired, a search engine for jobs. And our moderator, Sapna Satugopan, is a research analyst at Jupiter Research. where she is focused on online search covering search engine marketing, SEO, and the overall search experience. Prior to joining Jupiter Research, Sapna worked as a consultant at PwC. So it's my great pleasure to introduce to you all of our distinguished speakers this evening. Thank you.
Do you want to make a presentation?
I guess I'm the third kind of speaker. I start off pretty loud, but then it goes down a bit. So yeah, like Reshma said, I cover search and search engine marketing for Jupiter Research, and obviously it started to sort of spread out into a lot of other zones, and vertical search is definitely something that we are focusing on a lot more in the recent times, and obviously sort of the hotbed for that is where we are at right now, Google. In essentially, what we are covering is the main general search engines, but vertical search is something that I think I've spoken with each one of the panelists at some point of time to discuss that. So I think it should be an interesting session. I just wanted to set a base to the discussion in terms of understanding why we are so excited at our research firm about search engine marketing or online search. And I promise this is the only data slide that I would put in here. I just have a couple of slides, but this is precisely the reason we think search is getting more and more interesting. This is the advertising forecast in billions. So we're looking at about 40% of an advertiser's budget that's going to be focused on search by the year 2011. And that is exciting because the growth has been phenomenal. The marketers' interest in it has been phenomenal. And it's easy to understand why it's getting so big. A couple of reasons for sure. Lots of people going to search engines, whether it's going to be Google, Yahoo, any of these search engines. And the marketers are starting to notice that. There are lots more people coming in to put their ads on it, to put their, whether it's going to be AdWords or Yahoo's ads, to be able to reach these searchers. And that is essentially the main reason it's getting pushed up a lot more. And one more interesting aspect to that is, or the push factor to why search is growing so hugely for the advertisers, is also the reason that they're opening up to a new set of search engines and not just focusing on Google and Yahoo. And Michael probably knows this a lot. If I'm a retail marketer, I'm selling some kind of shoes, and I know I go to Google and put my ads there to be able to access the people searching for shoes. I also know that there are these bunch of other vertical shopping search engines, Become.com, there's Shopping.com, a bunch of other shopping search engines that I should also be focusing on, and that's definitely another contributing factor to that. And this is just sort of a snippet of why I think it's going to be interesting in retail for sure. This is a question we ask consumers, how useful they find any of these types of content in trying to purchase something. And I've sort of highlighted the shopping comparison sites, Shopping.com, Become.com, which is starting to really rise in how useful it is, in how searchers are basically using it. Search engines is right on top, but it's obvious the top right is where most of these content providers would want to be at. But it's an interesting point to note because shopping search engines has actually gone up a lot more on the x-axis, and that's definitely an encouraging trend. One more example, health search. Emerging information destination. When this was a question posed to, again, health consumers on how they went about looking for information about health and wellness, and about 60% of them used general search engines to look for information about it. 42% used search engines or sites that focus on health. So the blue zone, government-related engines, Yahoo Health, AOL Health is where people are going to be able to look for this information. So essentially, the bottom line is there are sort of the initiators to the market. A few of these industries are sort of poised to be able to take advantage of search engines or vertical sites by virtue of the fact that they have been around online a lot more. Retail is one example. Travel is one example. Sidestep.com is another travel search engine. Financial services is something which we are starting to see a lot more interest, especially from the marketers. Media and entertainment is another area which is well poised to take advantage of vertical search because they've been online for quite a while now. The emerging categories, and this is where the interesting part really starts up, classifieds, health. There are health search engines. Healthline.com, I believe, is one of them. Real estate, there are a couple of real estate, I think, search engines from the Bay Area itself. Jobs, which is what Simply Hired is sort of focusing on. Automotive, it's something that we've heard a lot of interest from the marketers, and it's definitely an area that we think either it blends into classifieds or it sort of takes off on its own. But essentially, the general search engines are starting to create these graduation grounds for each of these vertical sites. When they get bigger, when they get more and more of the volume from the searchers, it becomes an interesting point where the motivation to start a vertical site starts off. So with that, I know we had a quick introduction to each of the panelists, but I would love to hear from Michael, Gautam, and Suranga Chandratillake, which I can actually pronounce because I do watch cricket and I know there are lots of names like that in there. I'd like to sort of get a sense of what you do with Become.com, Simply Hired, and Blinkx, and where your sort of company started off. If you could just give an introduction.
Sure. Right.
Oh, sure. Is this?
Okay. So good evening. My name is Michael Yang, and I'm very happy to be here. I wanted to start by asking a quick question and see a show of hands here. How many of you had an experience where you were looking to buy something, so you wanted to kind of get some more information, reviews or products, and you could not really find that information on the internet, whether you're using search engines or any other sites? Can you raise your hand? Okay. That's about 50 to 60%. This is one of the reasons why we decided to develop a vertical search engine that specializes in product and shopping information. Just a brief background, my partner and I started MySimon back in 1998. It was one of the first online comparison shopping sites, and we got back together about 3 years ago to do something that's very, very different and new, and going after some problems that the general search engines weren't really delivering. So let me start by giving you a quick overview of our website, and then I have a few slides that gives you a little bit more background information about the company. So if you go to Become.com, one thing you'll notice that we have these suggestions at the bottom, but as you're typing something in, let's say you're looking for to get some more information about BMW, you see a lot of suggestions here like BMW 3 Series, 5, 6, 7. These are information that we gather from crawling billions of pages of web documents. So we are able to come up with intelligent suggestions to help you narrow down your searches or find products that you didn't think about but you're actually interested in. So let's look for something like plasma TV and type in a return. One thing I want to point out is that we have two buttons, research and shop. Basically, research allows you to find all the great information like reviews and buying guides to get more information about a product, like whether it's MP3 player, refrigerators, or any kind of product. And then shop is when you're ready to shop for products and you want to compare prices, then that's what you push. So default here is we give you a research results on the left-hand side and shop results on the right-hand side. So here we find you information from consumer research, CNET on TV buying guide. So these are very expert buying guide information on products. And if you are trying to understand the difference between plasma TV and LCD and high definition, then this is a great source of sites for that type of information. And once you're ready to, another thing that we have that's very unique is this search zoom feature, where you can narrow down the results by buying guides or product reviews, so you don't have to flip through so many pages to get to what you're looking for. So this is a real nice feature. We use extensive machine learning technology to make this possible. You can narrow it down to product reviews or buying guides here. And once you're ready to shop, you could click on the shop button, and we show you many different product brands and models and their prices, and you could narrow it down by particular brand or price or by a particular online store. So you could click on one of the brands that you might be interested in, and then like for this Pioneer 42-inch PDP model, you could compare prices, and we find merchants that sell their products. So we're here in Mountain View, so we just type in the zip code to calculate the total cost, including shipping and tax, and we give you the total price at the bottom. So one place sells it for $1,600, another place sells it for $2,999. There's a pretty wide gap between what some of these merchants are selling the identical product for. Another feature that we have is, let's see if you're looking for like iPod Nano. Let's say you're looking for this 4 gigabyte iPod Nano Black. What you see here on the right-hand side is a nearest store. So once we understand the location of the user, we could find the stores nearby that person to help you find. So in this case, there is a Circuit City and the Apple Store in Palo Alto and Mountain View area. So you could actually click on this to see where the store is located. We use Yahoo Maps here with the dynamic zooming capability so that you could see the store's address, phone number, store hours, and even a driving direction. So it makes it very easy for people to compare buying online versus offline if you want to go down and actually take a look at the product and see how it feels and make a decision. And a lot of times, offline stores would match the online prices, so you could actually print out this result and bring it down to the store, and they will usually match it for you. The last feature that I want to point out is this add to my favorite feature. So if you're thinking about, if you're considering a few different choices, then you can actually put those up on the workspace at the top so that you could think about it, look at them side by side, or you could add other kinds of products. So let's say you're looking for an iPod docking station to go along with it, and you want to take a look how they would look together. Or it could be a shirt and a pants, or even any kind of product that you could think about. You could put them up on the workstation, and this information is stored for you based on the cookie, so you could come back later and make your decision. And we're expanding on that. So that's a brief tour of our website. It combines the best of search engine that finds reviews and buying guides, and we help compare prices on thousands of products. So it's just a few slides on the company. So the opportunity that we're going after is, as Sapna pointed out earlier, search engine is incredibly powerful. General search and vertical search combined is about a $15 billion business this year, growing to $30 billion by 2010. That's according to Piper Jaffray's research report. And a lot of the monetization is through the shopping and commercial-related queries. And today, currently, approximately 350 million queries are done that are shopping-oriented. So there's lots of people looking for different kinds of products that they want to buy or they want to research. So the general search engines are very useful if you're looking up any kind of information about any topic, but a lot of times they're off topic when you're looking for particular product reviews or buying guides, because let's say you're looking for television. It brings back information about history of television or television station, websites. It's just hodgepodge. But a vertical search engine gives you just product information like buying guides and reviews and discussion forums, so you can learn more about different television technology to help make a better buying decision. And our product and technology, so we have created this brand new search engine using a proprietary ranking algorithm. So we have 3.2 billion pages of documents that are only shopping. That compares to Google's latest published numbers of 8 billion pages of everything. So we're just specializing in all the sites that are shopping oriented. And our AIR technology is sort of our core crown jewel of our technology. This is a patent-pending technology that looks at not only the incoming links to a page, but also outgoing links. And we also look at the context of where the links are coming from. So a bunch of links are coming from off-topic pages or spam pages. We don't give any additional ranking for that. But if it comes from other sites that are related to your topic, product or shopping, then we give you a lot of ranking boosts. So it's a much more targeted and relevant search results and much more spam resistant. And we integrate that.
Sorry, to be...
Sure, I'll make it real quick. So it's the only site that combines the research and shopping. Our business model is CPC. We have over 5,000 merchants who are selling their products on our site, over 20 million products. And our revenue is ramping up rapidly. And founded by founders Mike Simon and Wisenet, and the management team from Yahoo, eBay, AltaVista, and Nextag. Located here in Mountain View. We have launched a Japanese company joint venture. So we have 42 employees here and 18 in Japan. And we're one of the fastest growing shopping search engines. And brief explanation about our technology and the kind of coverage that we got in the press. So that's all I have for Become.com right now.
I'm sorry, I was just hoping that you'll get into some part of the... Gautam, did you want to explain a bit about Simply Hired? And just a quick question. Between Become.com, how many people have actually gone to Become.com to search for products? What about Simply Hired? I'm guessing that the Silicon Valley it might be slightly bit more with all the jobs seekers.
Oh no, it's generally popular.
And Blinkx.com? How many have access? Oh, there you go. Oh. So Gautam, did you want
Yes. So first of all, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Gautam Godhwani. I'm the CEO of Simply Hired. And since Michael started off with a question, I'm going to indulge in the same. So I'm going to ask you guys to raise your hand and keep it up if you've ever looked for a job. Can I see a show? Hey, keep them up. I want to see them. I want to see the hands. Okay, now, I want you guys to keep your hand up if you enjoyed the process. So that's kind of the value proposition for Simply Hired in a nutshell. Simply Hired, as you know, operates a search engine for jobs. We index jobs from a few thousand sources around the internet, including job boards, newspaper sites, nonprofit sites, government sites, employer sites. Anywhere where the jobs are, we go out and get them. Today our index is about 5 million jobs total, which if you know about sites like Monster and Career Builder, we're about 15 times the size. And when we started in March of 2005, to give you a sense of our growth, we were about 8 times the size. In addition to that, Simply Hired has a number of other features. For example, we integrate referral data, salary data, mapping data, so that you have a really, really great job search experience when you come to the site. The company was founded in October of 2003. We came to market in March of 2005. And the company has now raised about $17.7 million in funding total. A couple of months ago, we announced a partnership with News Corporation and launched MySpace, so we now power MySpace Careers. So if you have a chance, check out careers.myspace.com. I think the excitement for us in the company really stems from the fact that we really believe we're working on an important problem. If you look at the life of an individual, if you look at our lives, we believe that there's really 3 important decisions that each of us are going to make. The first is the spouse we choose. The second is the house we choose. And the third is the job we choose. And, if things go smoothly for you, you're probably not making those first 2 decisions very often. So that leaves jobs. And if the Bureau of Labor Statistics is correct, then we're going to each make that decision 10 times in the next 20 years. So that makes job search the most important decision that we will make again and again in our lives. And so Simply Hired is determined to help people find jobs they love. And I would say that we've probably executed on about 15 to 20% of our vision. So we're pretty excited. There's some great times ahead. So I'm excited to be with you. Thank you.
I guess there could still be a dating search kind of a site for the first option, looking for a wife.
There could, but
yeah.
yes, thank you.
Suranga, did you want to explain about Blinkx?
Yeah. I don't have a question for you. Instead, I have a request. When someone asked earlier, not enough of you put your hand up, saying that you'd been to Blinkx.com. So the first demand I have of all of you is to go to Blinkx tonight and have a look at it. It's much more interesting than sitting here, staring at me or listening to me. So, Blinkx is a video search engine. The company is about 2.5 years old. We looked at, my team, my founding team and I all come from a sort of background in audio and video search and that kind of area. And when we first looked at the space about 2.5, almost 3 years ago now, we were amazed at how little technology was being used in that particular area. At the time, if you tried to look for a video online, even for the few videos that were online, it was amazingly difficult to find things. You basically stumbled on things, if you were lucky, on a sort of existing search engine, Google or Yahoo, that kind of thing. So we focus very heavily on changing that problem and fixing that problem. We use all kinds of interesting technology, which we can go into later, using things like speech recognition, visual analysis, face recognition, all that kind of stuff, to really get computers to understand what's going on inside video content. And we do that across the web. So, I'm sure all of you have read articles or checked out videos, websites in the last sort of 6 months. It's become a very hot topic. But what you'll notice with a lot of those sites, almost all of them, is that it's all about stuff that just exists on their own site. Blinkx is very different. We're out about what's out there across all these different sites. So from our single search box, you should be able to find everything from a Bloomberg report on Condoleezza Rice's latest flight to the Middle East, all the way through to probably a more compelling video of a skateboarding dog. So just to sort of give you a few milestones in the company, we're still relatively small in the sense that we're sort of angel funded and sort of personally backed right now. But despite that, on that shoestring budget, we've managed to get a pretty popular site, and recently have started announcing a couple of pretty large distribution deals that we've signed. The first of which went out a couple of weeks ago. We now power video search on an AOL sub-portal called StudyBuddy, which is an education portal, which is a very exciting sort of piece of news for us at the moment. From the point of view of kind of where we see things going, we're amazed that even today video online is, if you look at what people are doing with video online, it's pretty naive and pretty short-sighted. It's still sort of short clips that are fun for a while, but people don't seem to have grasped just what is possible. The internet is an amazingly powerful distribution network. It's very, very fast. It's already piped into millions and millions of homes across the world. It's only getting faster and more pervasive. It also is very, very quick to adapt to new display technologies and devices, whether it's phones, whether it's your TV, whatever. And at the end of the day, the media of choice for most of us is television or video content. More of us watch TV than we read books or newspapers or magazines. And whether you like that or not, that's because of the emotive nature of that particular medium. We think that intersection is really, really exciting. It's about technology, but it's also about what a lot of people really like doing for lots and lots of hours every day. And we're hoping to play a small part in hopefully connecting those two together.
Great. Thank you. So let's just jump into some of the questions that I had for this panel, and then we'll definitely open it up for question and answer from the audience. But here's my question, and this is probably extremely basic to start off with, but it's a question that usually gets a lot of interesting responses. What is vertical search? But here's the reason I asked this question, because my mom, and I know it's sort of a cliched term to use, but person to use. When I ask her what's a vertical search site, she says it's Expedia, because she could be able to search for information about travel deals and so forth there. She thinks Amazon.com could be search as well. But there's definitely a difference there in what you guys do, which is spider out and be able to collect that information and pull it instead of get people to submit that. So my question to you is, one, what do you think is vertical search? And two, how important do you think it is to distinguish yourselves from the sites which just sort of take submissions? You're actually going out there to gather information from the web. So, Michael, could you start off with?
Right. So I think that vertical search engine is different than general search engines like Google or Yahoo, in that general search engine gives you all kinds of documents that matches the keyword that you're looking for. So vertical search engine is really a specialized search engine that has a separate index or database of information that is specialized in one particular topic, so that you don't get a lot of these off-topic or unrelated, irrelevant results, to save user a lot of time in getting to the information that they're looking for. So whether it's shopping, medical, job, video, these are all vertical search engines. So there's clearly a need and a room for a specialized search engine of all different kinds and different verticals.
Gautam?
Well, I guess I'd say that by definition, I think the reason that search as a whole emerges is because you have something to search. I mean, if you have just a few items, search is trivial. You don't need to search, you can just see it. So I think general search emerged because there were a lot of web documents out there. And as the number of online destinations has proliferated, I think you see that now there's a lot of documents or a lot of information within a lot of specialties. So let me give you the example of job search. Today, in addition to the big boards that you hear about, Monster Career Builder, there's 5,000 other job boards. Then there's 3,000 newspapers. There's 5 million employers, more and more of which are putting their job sites online. And by the way, every state and county has their own job site. Now I'm going to tell you that the biggest job site out there, like Monster, has only 10% of the jobs that you might be interested in. So what are you going to do? And that's the reason that the vertical search emerged. But I think that the long-term promise of vertical search actually, I think, is going to make that term a bit of a misnomer. Because I think the vertical search players really, at the end of the day, are specialists. They are specialists in a particular area that requires great specialty. And when you look at job search and what a complex process it is, when you go through this 3 to 6 month job search process, where you do everything from go and search for a job, filter companies, see benefits data, find referrals, create a resume, that's where the specialty comes in. So I think that you're seeing an era of specialists emerge. And that's fundamentally, I think, the most exciting part about vertical job search. The fact is that Simply Hired is known as a vertical search company, but we're actually an employment company. We help people find jobs. That's what we do. And search is just one mechanism to do it.
Is it important for you to make the distinction to people who come to Simply Hire? For example, to be able to tell them that we go out and get as many jobs as we can that's applicable to you, versus telling them this is just a job site you should be coming here to look for. Is it important for you to point out that you go out and spider and get the content that they will actually need?
Absolutely, and we go out of our way to point that out. If you go to our homepage, we'll tell you that we index 5 million jobs from literally thousands of different sources. It's right there.
Okay. Suranga?
Yeah, I think there's sort of 2 or 3 hallmarks that typically yield a vertical search engine. The first is essentially a topic or an area or an activity that is of great importance to people at certain points in their lives. And all these, the list you showed earlier, all sort of fall into that category. But then it's also about that content being out there and being, there being lots of it, but it being in certain areas or certain spaces or certain sites. So again, the big problem with general search engines is that when you do your product search, you get diluted amongst lots of things that aren't to do with products that still match the keyword, for example. And then the final area, which is probably the most important, really, I think in the long term, is that this area that we're talking about has to be one which requires some kind of very specialized approach, whether it's to do with something as simple as how the interface interacts with the user, or whether it's something more complex like some deep technology requirement to actually understand the content that's there, the data that's there. That's where it really matters. Just to sort of not be, not sort of self-advertise constantly, I'll use an example like Zillow, which is a real estate search engine. What's really neat about Zillow is not that it taps into any information that wasn't already there. It's all already there, and people who are really good at searching could already get to most of what Zillow could do. But what they really did that was smart was pull all those things together. So you can type in a zip code or an address or whatever and get not just the thing you're looking at, but also the prices historically and all kinds of legal information and information about the neighborhood and so on. That's really where it gets very smart. And to do that on a general search engine is extremely difficult. I mean, even if you look at Google or Yahoo, yes, they're general search engines. That's the core business for both of those companies. But they're also, in many ways, vertical search engines. They all have separate tabs. And so even in their case, you can see there's this admission of the fact that it makes sense to separate Frugal from Google Web Search or whatever else.
I think, and also, I mean, that's sort of one of the reasons as well, right? The one search box is not something that's really working anymore. It has been great for so long that you could go to one search box, search for whatever you want, but then you want that kind of flexibility in what you want to search for. So keeping that in mind, and we can probably start with Suranga this time, what are the sort of the 3 main priorities that you have when you design the interface of your own search sites? They're sort of the search bar, and you can click on search, and that's what Google does. But when you design your own interfaces, what are sort of the 3 top things that you have to keep in mind, or you try to keep in mind, to make it easier for these people who are coming to your site?
Sure. Well, I'm going to borrow from Gautam, that's okay, in the sense that, while we are a video search company, absolutely, we, on a sort of higher level, what we are more than that is, probably the best analogy is a remote control that lets you access video content online. It's a bit like your TV remote control that helps you flick between channels. You should be a sort of remote control. And in that sense, different people will come from remote control trying to do different things. So that's the way we think of it. We literally go through a process of thinking, the average user, and for that matter, all the different average users, as it were, what do they all come to the system and site to do? And you'll see that our site, in that way, splits people up. So there is a search box because there's a certain percentage of people who are after a specific piece of video or a specific piece of information, and they know what it is, and they're willing to type that in and define it well and hit go. But there's also a whole bunch of people who don't really know, who just want to browse some entertainment content or browse some top news stories of the day or whatever, and we provide those as well. So I think search, in an effort to become sort of overly simplistic, search has gone after this route of defining itself purely as a search box and a button next to it, but it's actually a lot more complex than that, and that's an important thing to bear in mind. We still use the search index. Technologically, it's all about search underneath, but you can have very, very different interfaces into that search engine. Another good example is on Become, the fact that they have this concept of two buttons, because when you are buying something, researching and buying are two very, very separate things. So that's where I think that search shouldn't get a sense of search being a search possibility. It's not that. It's more about technology underneath that helps you find information. How you access that technology can change quite dramatically based on what you're actually doing at the point in time.
So in terms of the main elements of our interface, certainly with a name like Simply Hired, I feel compelled to say that simplicity is the very first thing that we pay attention to. And I think the effort that we've made is to really look at what the user really wants to accomplish at the end, and to be able to use a very directed interface to get them to that. So obviously when you go to our home page, you'll see that, in fact, it's a very, very simple interface, very Google-esque, if you will, because we believe the user's coming to our site to accomplish a very specific task. Efficiency of the interface is the other aspect of this that's very important to us. When you have a database of jobs, for example, that's on having them find an efficient way to get down to something they really care about is important. So, for example, our filtering interface, I would venture to say, is the deepest on the web. You can search jobs by the size of company, the number of years of experience on the job. Lately, you can search it by whether the company's dog-friendly. So there's all sorts of different ways you can drill down literally with a few clicks. And that efficiency is very, very critical to us. The third area I would highlight is contextually integrated. And what I mean by that is that if you're in the middle of actually searching for jobs and you want other relevant information, you ought to be able to find it. That's why next to every company name there's a link where you can see background company information with financials and a link to the site. Next to every location, you can drop down a map and you can actually then start to map it and see commute distances. Next to every listing, you can see referral data, so you can see if you know anyone at that company. Next to every occupational category, there's salary data, so you can see how much the job pays. So what you have is a job search process that is very simple, very efficient, and highly integrated. Because at the end of the day, if you have more information, it just shouldn't take more time. And that's where the challenge comes in for us.
I had a question about the dog-friendly part, just to...
Sure, this gives me more questions. What?
So you essentially, what you do is go to the company websites, their job listings page. Is that something that exists on those pages, or is that knowledge that you have on which companies are dog-friendly?
No, it's knowledge that we have. A lot of the additional work that we've done is to essentially go out and figure out the data sets, the data stores that are relevant to our users, and to go out and get them and integrate them into the site. So, for example, we actually, in this case, worked literally with Dogster. It's a social network for dog owners to say what are the most dog-friendly companies, and they didn't have it either. So we worked on that together and found a way to get that info. So whether it's salary data or company data or benefits data or anything like that, we will go ahead and do that. So to give you a couple of other examples, we partnered with Care2 to highlight socially responsible companies. We partnered with Working Mother magazine to create a set of filters that are mom-friendly or family-friendly companies. And so that's really the focus of the company is to provide very, very deep targeting so that you aren't spending more time but less time.
So there's sort of a knowledge filter beyond what you're able to accumulate as data.
That's correct.
Michael?
So at Become, there are three sort of design goals we use. Simple, clean, and easy to use. It's pretty fundamental. Keep it clean, keep it simple, and keep it easy to use. And we conducted a focus group study of our site in New York and LA a couple of months ago, and we were very happy to hear that they really liked the site because it was simple, clean, and easy to use. And a lot of companies have put a lot of blinking ads and others, and I found out that consumers really get turned off by a lot of ads and a lot of busy things going on. They just want a site that gives them the information that they're looking for. Now, in terms of sort of approach or the philosophy, we use both structured data and unstructured data. And what I mean by that is web pages are very unstructured codes or documents. And then there's structured information that merchants have. They have product images, prices, and descriptions, and other specs. So we're not biased toward any one or the other. We just look at what does users need and what is the best information that we could present. If it's unstructured, we have to develop a crawler-based search engine technology to crawl billions of pages of documents. If it's structured data that merchants have, then we take that and display it rather than trying to extract those information through technology, because in those instances, technology can never be as good as structured information that's already available. So why do you try to do something that's not as efficient or better than what's already available? So we combine both structured and unstructured data in our site to make it more easy for people to find the information. The last point is that we try to have our users spend least amount of time on our site. And that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but we're not driven by page views or CPMs. We're driven more by how quickly can we help people find the information that they're looking for and just have them go on their way, whether it's clicking out to another website or clicking out to go to a merchant to look at the product there. Because our business model is driven by cost per click, CPC, rather than page views or CPM. So unlike some of the first generation portals that are trying to have a walled garden of information, they want you to stay there as long as possible, click as many pages as possible, because ultimately their revenue model is based on the CPM. But our model is very different. We want people to spend the least amount of time on our site. We want them to come back often, but spend the least amount of time to just click out to the information that they're looking for, and that's how we sort of measure how well we're doing as a company in helping consumers find the information that they're looking for. Is there a question?
Just a question then. So during the research phase, does that generate revenue, or is it only when they go to the buy phase?
Yeah, research, we don't make any money. So that's organic results, very objective, unbiased. But when people click to go to a merchant by clicking on buy button or click on one of the sponsor links at the bottom, then we generate revenue.
Actually, that takes me to the next question. Thank you. The revenue model, and you explained a bit about it, but could you go a little bit more deeper into what is currently in place and how you're planning to scale it? Because there are, I guess, two ways that Become.com, for example, looks at revenue. Could you explain about that?
So we generate revenue through some 5,000 merchants who advertise on our site. They give us product feed of about 20 million products. So whenever a user clicks to their site to look at the product or purchase the product, then we get a small cost per click fee, and we have a standard rate card. We also generate revenue through Google AdSense. So we're one of the larger Google AdSense partners. We put Google sponsor links at the bottom, and when people find some relevant merchants or ad sponsors that has the information of product that they're looking for, we do a rev share with Google. So it's all CPC.
Okay.
We have one CPA, which is sort of a portion of the revenue, but that's just one out of 5,000 merchants, and it's a very unique case there.
But that would be sort of what most merchants might be possibly interested in as well, trying to push the performance of
That's right.
Become.com.
But CPC is a better model for us, and we think it's a fair model because it distributes the responsibility, the risk, and the reward to both us and the merchant.
Okay.
Whereas CPA puts more burden on us rather than the merchant to try to
Right.
convert that into a customer.
Right. Gautam?
My sense is that companies like ours, this whole vertical search category, fundamentally are lead generation companies. In our case, what happens is that you have a candidate show up to our site. Over the 3 to 6 month job search process, we develop a very deep profile of that candidate, and then we end up matching that candidate to targeted destinations. Now, whether that candidate is then delivered to those destinations via a click or as a profile or resume, whether they are delivered to a job board or whether they're delivered to an employer, we're agnostic because we make money in all those cases. So the way that the company makes money is using clicks. There's paid job listings where a candidate can click on a job listing that's at the top of the page and go through, and we make money that way. And when a candidate creates a resume, we match that resume with targeted destinations that also pay us money.
We don't advertise on our own site today, primarily because we use our own site as a sort of space or an area to do lots of experimentation regarding things like interface and how the system works. What we do instead is advertise with all of our distribution partners. So when a partner of ours uses the technology on their own site, usually advertising is placed alongside the content. The interesting thing about video is that it really is the possibility of video advertising, which right now is extremely popular and sort of both with users and also advertisers. But the beauty of our system is that it works perfectly well with text ads as well, and actually many of our partners use that instead at this stage, just because the market there is more efficient, more fluid. The other area that we have coming up, which is very interesting, is the ability to sort of splice together content and advertising based on searches. So the interesting thing that we get is we know what someone's interested in at a given point in time. We know why they're watching that particular video about Britney Spears or this particular video about the news or a particular company or whatever. And that gives us the ability to match that piece of content with a piece of very relevant advertising. If you look at video content online today, most of it does have advertising before or after or during it, but it tends to be very sort of, dare I say, bland, brand-oriented advertising, which works to an extent, but doesn't get as far as it could do. We have the ability to sort of, I guess, bring the sort of AdWords-esque model of advertising into TV advertising. So we're doing a few trials in that area right now. Today there isn't enough of that advertising to make it sort of as scalable as it is on a Google or a Yahoo, but that's definitely the future for that kind of content, I think.
Actually, considering it's video, this definitely is a question. Is there an editorial sort of layer to, obviously, just like Gautam was talking about, there's sort of a second layer of how you go about sort of filtering that information. Mm-hmm. But is there an editorial aspect to that in what you consider to be sort of okay to put on your site and what you consider not to be that okay? Is there an editorial layer after you collect the data?
Yeah, so not on our site. We try to spider everything, whatever it is, wherever it is, from the very esoteric to the very mainstream. Many of our partners focus on a particular area. If someone's building a vertical portal around a particular topic, they might only have video from certain sources. We obviously offer lots of filtering options to the user. So as a user, you can select if you want things that are very recent. If you're a sort of news-oriented person, you can select what source you want information to come from. So do you want only information from entertainment, or do you only want information from the sort of user-generated side of the video content world? You can also do things like more sort of rudimentary filters, things like adult filters and so on as well. Technologically, it's actually quite a challenge. A lot of the technologies that have been used to make web search good at relevance, things like linking analysis, things like domain analysis, don't really work so well with video. Pieces of video aren't really linked to each other in the same way that a web page is linked to each other or a blog links to each other. So we've had to build a whole lot of new technologies around how that works. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, that's all about relevance. That's not about filtering. Right. Filtering is the options are there, but we either let the user do it or the partner do it.
Okay, gotcha. And considering we're in Google, this is sort of an obvious question, but Google Video. Yeah. There's definitely out there. I'm guessing Google Jobs if it came along, or Google Shopping, which is sort of frugal in a way. But I'm sure you think about it a lot, and I'm sure it's sort of a question on how do we approach this if Google got into our space, and if they did, how are you planning to sort of work around that? What's your sense of how much Google can provide and how you're competing with Google, and especially Google and Yahoo, I would think. Well, what is your sense of the competition from the general search engines? Suranga?
Yeah, sure. Well, that's a funny question for us. We worry about it a lot to start off with. In reality, it seems like we have nothing to really worry about, at least so far. Google Video isn't a search engine. It has a search engine built into it, but it only searches its own content. So that it solves a very different problem. It does that relatively well, but it doesn't really go beyond Google. So if you do a search on Google, you're not going to find a CNN.com video clip. And yet many of our users want to find a CNN.com video clip. So from that point of view, there's no real direct threat. And in general, we've seen that the bigger players online, Google, AOL, Yahoo, even though they have search capabilities at hand in some cases, haven't really deployed those or gone after those. For them, I think, going back to a point Michael made earlier, it's more about building not exactly a walled garden, but certainly an experience where you stay on the site. And there are advantages to that. The beauty of Google Video, for example, is that all the video is played on google.com, so there's a lot of control that Google can have on the viewing experience, for example, whereas the problem that any search engine has is that once you click off, we can't really control how fast that video plays and so on. We don't want to do that. We want to be a gateway. We obsess also about getting someone from the front page off the site as quickly as possible, as many times as possible, sure, but as quickly as possible. So from that point of view, we're pretty unique in our space. There are a few smaller companies that have gone after the sort of video search area. In the main, they've either focused on specific sub-verticals, which we think misses the point. If you look at what our users search for, they search for everything, and the same user will come back and search for very different things, even in the same day or week. And then other players also, are basically retrofitting existing technologies to try and solve video search, which again we think miss the point. I mean, a lot of video search engines out there still depend entirely on text. So it's all about computers going and reading words that are supposedly about the video, like a title, a summary, or metadata. And that gets you so far, but it's all too easy to trick that kind of engine. You can say your video is about one thing, it can be about something completely different. And we're already seeing that kind of spam happen a lot on sites like YouTube and Reva and so on, where if you can get lots of views, then you get to be cool, but your content may not be as cool as the views you get, and so on. So the great thing about technology like ours, which actually watches the video and cracks it open, is we have a better stab at making sure that we find something relevant and accurate.
And I guess even YouTube is kind of having a problem now that they're trying to put sort of sponsored content video. They have the Paris Hilton video on their homepage, and the comments to that are really worth reading. But it's definitely a problem that even YouTube seems to be having, and trying to sort of potentially make money out of what they have in terms of content, and trying to get sponsored folks to come in and put their content on there.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately I can't tell you who it's with, but we're about to launch a distribution sort of partnership with a very large portal, very big US-based, globally large portal, and they're very interested in the broad demographic. They don't want to just advertise just to teenagers or college students. They want to advertise lots of people, and they want to have sort of professional, traditional content alongside which to advertise. That's what Blinkx can offer, because we do have content partners like Forbes or Reuters or whatever, that sort of thing. And yes, there's a demand for the sort of the garage video, YouTubes of the world, and so on. But that's only one part of the. It's like like saying that all of online video will be America's funniest videos and home movies. It's not going to be like that. There's going to be more to it, and that's why I like the idea of breadth. Yes, that's important, but so is everything else.
Gautam, Google keeps you up awake at night thinking about it.
Nice. I certainly would say that again, companies in our category spend some quality time from time to time talking about Google. And as a philosophy, I wouldn't like to see us really underestimate any company, much less companies that have market caps that are larger than ours. As a result, I would say that certainly with respect to Google, as a generalist, being a generalist like Google, it's very tempting to think that a generalist can be a specialist in every area. And as it turns out, that's not the case, because by definition, a generalist is actually not a specialist. And to give you a perspective on that, for those of you that have searched for a job, if your job search stopped with search when you entered the first few queries, if I asked you how far were you into your job search after you finished entering the first few queries into the search engine, I suspect a lot of you would tell me maybe 5%, if that. And that's really the advent of a lot of these specialized verticals, which is that when you go deep, when you get specialized, there's just a lot more. For the record, I would say that Google does have a Google Jobs. It's called Google Base. And when you look at the jobs offering within Google Base, you will see that, in fact, Google Base's objective is not to create a comprehensive job offering, but in fact to capture data that is not already in the Google index. That's why Google departed from its philosophy of going to other sites, and for the first time became a primary collector of data, where you can actually put jobs into Google, because they wanted to collect additional data. Now, as Google creates this data store, they're going to have two choices. One is going to be to create a walled garden, to bring up the term earlier, and that would go against every philosophy that Google has. Or the other one would be to open up the data. And if they do that, then Simply Hired will index Google data just like it indexes the thousands of other sources of data around the web. The other issue that I suspect Google has to contend with is that what they want to do is to continue to increase their advertising revenue. If you saw that slide earlier, that's really the revenue they want to increase. And when you face the fact that some of your largest advertisers are in fact job companies that are your competitors, you end up having a pretty serious channel conflict. And that's why I suspect that Google's objective in jobs has been very, very different. It's to capture additional data rather than go ahead and compete with its existing advertisers.
So I think we do sort of watch Google closely, and we do compete with Frugal on our comparison shopping site because there is definitely a similar functionality and product search and comparison shopping. But on our research side, where we find product reviews and buying guides, that's more of a specialized search for shopping. It remains to be seen whether Google will develop a specialized search for product information like become.com. I personally don't think Google will, because Google's goal is to try to get any and all searches to go through google.com and use the general search engine for everything. So it wants to be like a Swiss Army knife. Whether you want a screwdriver or a knife or a bottle opener or wine opener, it wants to be everything to everybody. We beg to differ. We think that there's a need for a power screwdriver if you want to screw lots of things to a lot of job to do. It remains to be seen, but we're not terribly worried about Google getting into our space. But we compete more with Google, a general search engine, because a lot of people are still going to Google for doing product research. And our challenge is to how do we deliver even more compelling user experience and better information quicker, so that user will start to migrate over and become a vertical search engine. We also get additional other traffic through people clicking on our favorites, bookmarks, other websites that link to us, as well as some partnerships that we're working on.
And Gautam, where does your traffic come from? And I'm sure partnerships are a big part of that.
I know.
Sorry, I raised my hand.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just a final question for Michael. You mentioned earlier structured and unstructured data.
Yes.
So what you showed us was really, the content you showed us was really organized, and it looks pretty well organized to be just a look of crawling. So I guess it is data fed from vendors, or I don't know, is it data fed from vendors? And if it is, isn't it? How does this interfere, or does it interfere with the search results? And isn't the search results, or the results you're providing, biased by vendors who are providing or feeding data, like into Google-based, for example?
Are there two sources of data? Is essentially.
Yeah, that's the question.
Okay.
It looks really nice what you showed us.
Right. So you could try it out, but we have the two buttons in the search box on the front page. Research and shop. So and when you just type in a query and hit a return, on the left-hand side you get research results, and the right-hand side you get shop results. The research results are unstructured data from our web crawl. We have 3 billion pages of web documents. And on the right-hand side are structured data that we get from merchants. So merchants feed us data, all 5,000 of them, and there's like 20 million. So it's pretty large volumes of data. And it includes product images, prices,
And how do you rank them?
So we have a separate ranking algorithm for both web search results, research engine. So it looks at content, link analysis, contextual analysis. So it's got some advanced mathematical techniques.
Thinking about the others, how do you
The
rank
other, we have a different ranking algorithm for those. So for that, we look at factors like the content. Is this most relevant product to what user is looking for? Is this offered at more than one merchant, so that it seems to be a more... And then we also look at the click-through rate. Is this product getting clicked more often than others? So we look at click-through rate. We look at CPC bid amount. So we have a dynamic bidding system where a merchant could bid higher, just like Google AdWords, And that's one of the factors that we consider in ranking a particular product or particular merchant in our comparison shopping. So it's a two very different engine running simultaneously, and we present the data to the user in a way that's very clean and organized so that it makes it easy for a user to go wherever they want
But
to.
the shopping person, the person who's actually purchasing something, the listings that they see are not the listings that you spider for. But those are, I mean, they're not the listings that you go out and get from other sites, but those are the listings of people who've submitted data.
So our product search results shows products submitted by the merchants.
Okay, there is no data coming in from your spidered content?
That's correct.
Okay.
We provide a research it link, where if you want to research that on the web, then we automatically show you, you click on that and you get the research results that are from the web.
Okay, and there is no real mixing of data. It's not that...
We're not mixing the data.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it possible that you can find something in the form of research results, but you can't buy it? It's not available?
Yes, because on our web index we have some 200,000 merchants and I don't know 100 million products or more. So it's very, very comprehensive, and sometimes we don't have the merchant the product from the merchants. Even with the 5,000 merchants that we work with, everybody from Amazon to Walmart to Target. But a lot of times they are offered as small merchants somewhere. So sometimes our users find products offered through a merchant on our web index rather than from the product search results. And that's part of the power of the comprehensiveness of the web search in the shopping vertical. I'm sorry?
And then you've got AdSense.
Right, AdSense, which is another source. So we provide information from the web, information from the merchants, and then the Google advertisers, and between those three, 99% of the time people find information on the product that they're looking for.
Do you find that it's necessary for you to share that information with the searchers? So I guess if I go to aboutbecome.com, would that be information that I would find on that page, which specifies that when you research, it's information that we go out and seek, but when you actually purchase, this is information that is submitted by the merchants. Is that something that you find it important to specify on your About page?
I think that people have sort of certain expectation of search engine results as well as comparison shopping results. So, and we offer many different drill down capability by looking at particular brands. So I think we haven't had it's pretty self-explanatory, our search results as well as product search results.
Okay.
So people could go back and forth between the two pretty easily. But we could always use improvement in how we make it more usable. So I'd be happy to talk to
I think there are a couple more questions, and then we'll go ahead.
Is there any linking between companies who advertise with you on the paid result to the indexing, or the result that comes up in the indexing, that you crawl in those sites, right? So before.
Oh, is there any linkage between the product from merchants and the web results?
Yeah.
No, complete. It's like there's so much distance. There's no linkage at all. The web search engine is through our crawling and through our indexing and ranking. That's completely separate from our product search results that are based on the data feeds from the merchants.
So could there be a possibility that somebody is providing the data feed, but that is not crawled?
It's possible. It's possible.
I think we'll just take one more question, and then we'll go into that during the question and answer session, if that's okay.
So Michael, I had the other part of the question. Are all the product listings sponsored listings?
Yes, they are products that are provided to us through the merchants that we have a relationship with.
And they also have to be advertised. You said
yes, they do pay us on a CPC basis. Now,
if I'm a merchant and I don't want to be part of the rate card, then I cannot be in that index.
That's correct. And this is actually important to the quality control, because if we make it free and open to anybody, then a lot of spammers, they just submit all kinds of junk data. And this is what's happening on Frugal. So the user experience is quite poor on a lot of the product searches on Frugal, because again, it's free, and when you have free, people don't care, they just want to get the click. So they would put wrong descriptions just to get the click, they would use all kinds of spam techniques, so the user experience suffers as a result of that. And Google Base is another example. they just throw in recipes and job listings and product results, and you get all kinds of hodgepodge. So you need a certain amount of quality control, and the best way to do that is by having a accountability system. Where,
or it can be an opportunity where you can really develop technology to get the spam.
True. But we also need to generate revenue to continue to invest. So it's an important issue, but we think that our current CPC model is good for the user as well as for the merchants and us.
And that's something is that popular across shopping search engines usually? For example, shopping.com, do most of the shopping search engines work on a similar model?
Yes, most comparison shopping sites work on a CPC model. They have some crawled results and they don't get paid. That's just like us, we don't get paid when people click on a crawled search results, even though it's a merchant.
And I guess we can go back to the question to Gautam about partnerships.
Yeah, the sources of traffic.
Yes.
Most of our traffic actually is word of mouth or organic. We do receive some traffic from the search engines, but not significant. And our partner traffic has continued to ramp. That's the other significant source of traffic. We're a very, very partner-focused company, particularly the relationship that we announced with News Corporation and Fox Interactive Media. So you're seeing us on sites like MySpace and others. But still, our organic traffic tends to be the predominant source.
Yeah, the same for us. We've sort of dallied with search engine marketing, and it's got certain results, but it's not really a major thing at all. Again, word of mouth has been very powerful for us, and also through partners, we're getting increasing amounts of traffic that way.
And I'm guessing there's also a strong sort of PR focus in trying to get the word of mouth kickstarted and going back. Are there any specific sort of, I'm guessing, blogs or any social sort of viral marketing aspect to how you're getting your name out there, whether it's Blinkx or Simply Hired or Become? What are your strategies and how you're getting your site to be popular?
Well, obviously, if I was raising funding right now, I'd say immediately that my site is completely viral and everything we do is viral. Because if you don't say that, then you get shown the door straight away. It's rapidly turning into one of those meaningless terms in the Valley. But no, there are lots of viral aspects to what any site does. Email in particular is a just the whole concept of word of mouth. The fact that someone uses the site, finds it useful, and then tells a friend that they found it useful is in itself viral. So we've done various things on the site to make that easy. So whether it's a search you like that you want to save or share, whether it's a result you find that you want to save or share, you can do that sort of thing very easily, and that definitely works. But we found that how for all the sort of viral mechanisms you build into the system, most people will actually share things in their own way anyway. So, you can, with some content on Blinkx that actually plays from Blinkx itself, you can embed those videos on your own site, for example. You can click on email to friend link and it will automatically put that in an email for you and so on. But actually what we found through some interesting analysis is that many people don't do that, but they'll just copy the URL and drop that into an email themselves and send that. So I think as long as you build a fairly compelling service, and stick to your guns on that, then you'll find that people will sort of push it around. Beyond that, blogs and so on, there's definitely an opportunity to offer more services to those sort of fast-growing parts of the web, whether it's the social networks, whether it's the blogs, and that's something we'll look into more in the future. But right now, we're getting pretty good growth just from straightforward word of mouth. So there's a question there.
Is there a question?
Yeah. How many hours of video do you archive? How fast can you archive?
Yeah, so index rather than archive, just it's a tiny difference. But right now, I think if you go on the site, it'll say 4 million hours. I can, exclusive for this conference, I can tell you that it's more like about 6 million hours today. The speed depends on how we analyze the content. Some content is analyzed more than other content. One very obvious distinction I can give you as an example is that podcasts have no visual analysis, whereas video content does. But even on the most sort of analysis-heavy content, we can do it in about twice real time, the speed of the content itself. Now, some content can't be played at twice real time, so that doesn't help you, but that's how fast we can access things. So for example, if there's a news story breaking and it appears on CNN.com and BBC.co.uk and a few of the big news sites, we'll have it within, if it's a 1 minute or 2 minute clip, which it typically is, we'll have it about 2 or 3 minutes later at most, and that accounts for all the different things that can happen. The speed at which the index is growing is difficult for me to say. It was sort of doubling on a 6-month basis, but it seems to be accelerating, if anything, right now. But of course, a lot of that is content which is very long tail in style, which probably isn't going to get looked at. So I don't know how meaningful that number really is. But yeah, like I said, right now we have about 6 million hours worth of content in the index, and it's everything from skateboarding dogs to Comedies Rise.
We had one more question for Suranga.
Yes, I have another question for Suranga, and that's about indexing a video search. I'd like to understand what's the state of the art of indexing the actual content of video. It means, like, if I'm looking for a specific episode of The Simpsons, where does that line, when is going to be available, the current development, tagging content within video and actually going straight to that segment.
Yeah, that's what works with YouTube, I believe. I mean, it's the tagging aspect that's going to help me pull up the particular video.
Yeah, yes and no. So it's a complicated question for a number of reasons. The first reason is technology itself. So the actual state-of-the-art video search is amazing, very, very powerful stuff. And there's some demos. If I had access, I could have shown you that. We have a demo which works for a large archive of movies for a particular movie studio, and it's a prototype we're building with them. And you can literally type any line, any of those movies, and it'll jump you straight to that point. And it's very, very cool. You can think that they have a big archive, some really classic movies that you'll remember some really cool lines from. You can jump straight to it. It'll show you every time that line's repeated. So imagine, with something like, say, Star Wars, where you get a line that's repeated over and over again. Use the Force. You get to see every single use the Force throughout all the movies. I get the feeling this audience might like that. There's that kind of thing. Very, very powerful, and that ties in both. You can then overlay visual analysis. So there is actually some pretty good these days, sort of facial recognition-based stuff, particularly with movies and produced content, because actually, you may not know this, but lots of stars like to have lots of scenes where their face is head-on, so that they get brand recognition. So Tom likes to. There are points in Mission Impossible where Tom will stare at the camera for a few seconds, and it's true. And the technology is good enough now to pick out that kind of thing. So you can say, use the Force, but I want to see it when this character says it, or when this character's face is on the screen, and so on. So that all exists technologically. There are a couple of problems porting that to the web experience that you'll see on a site like Blinkx today. The first problem is making that sort of broad and fast enough to work across all this data. And that's really, really hard. So while it's easy to sort of pick 100 faces and say we can spot all those 100 faces, it's very difficult to pick the 2,000 or so celebrities that you'd actually need to be able to track the celebrities that are searched for most on our site. Because the scalability issue hits you there. The other big issue that we hit all the time is content. So things like the jump to the line in a movie or in an episode, that's only really compelling when you have so much content that becomes a problem. So, for example, my favourite Simpsons joke is one about a psychedelic chili, which you may or may not remember, that Homer ate once. And I'd love to be able to type that in and jump straight to that line and show someone that particular scene. But today, I guess it's Fox who owns that content, hasn't put all that content online. So, although I could build you a demo with a bunch of DVDs to show you that in action, I can't actually make that of any use on Blinkx TV. So for that reason, the state of the art is very, very powerful. It combines a lot of speech-oriented analysis, a lot of visual analysis, things like facial analysis. The reading of text on screens works extremely well with sports content, because if you think about things like an American football game, you often have information about the current plays. You can jump straight to a particular point in the game, things like that. So this is stuff that people would love to have, if you're a baseball fan or a football fan, whatever. But you can't apply a lot of it because it either doesn't scale technologically, or, even more frustrating, the content isn't yet online, so there's no way to actually share it with people.
I think the question was about how to get the word of mouth rolling.
Yes, sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, go for it.
So, in terms of actually getting word of mouth, and I think we were talking about media coverage as well. Just after the site initially got going, we found that the organic traffic grew just based on word of mouth. But we were very fortunate that we received a fair amount of media coverage, and I think that happened because the category was generally being very well covered. Search has been hot for a pretty long time, and vertical search has been hot, so there was a lot of coverage within the category, and the company was fortunate that some of its own features and some of its new launches were covered as well. We did do some other things. For example, within job search, there's a lot of interesting stories to tell, and the company owns a site called Simply Fired. And I will tell you,
I've seen that. It's really good one.
Yeah, it's a little bittersweet to say that was our #1 source of media coverage. But anyway, I would go so far as to say that yes, people like Simply Hired and they love Simply Fired. That's the way things are.
I have a question on metadata and vertical search. If you look at Google, for example, they're introducing something called Google Co-op, where they're empowering people like the NIH and the National Institute of Health, the Harvard Medical School, etc., to kind of tag different links and other types of things. And so they're one trend is they're adding more and more metadata into the generalized search in order to get more and more specific and help the user out. What are in your businesses or in general, like vertical search, how does that impact you or impact other types of vertical searches? The trends that are
So if I understand your question correctly, this area of user-generated content is a very, very interesting area for us, and so we're currently developing new social and community features to our site to allow users to not only rate and review merchants and products, but also create wish lists of all different kinds and create any kind of lists that you want to create based on the particular passion that you may have. So whether it's motorcycles or anything that people have a passion for, they could create a list of products and share that with other people who have similar affinity. So that's one area that we're actively developing right now to offer more community and social services to the users.
I'm sorry, actually, could we just shoot a couple of questions and then we can open it up for question and answer, if that's okay. I had one more question, especially to Gautam, and I think it's also because, there has been sort of news about how sites are not allowing their content to be spidered, or they're not allowing their content to be shared. And I think a huge example of that was Udo, which was a classifieds search site, and I believe Craigslist was a site that did not allow them to spider. Is that something that you come across often where, I guess not often, but is that something that is a bit of a challenge for you to handle?
The answer to that for us is pretty simple. It hasn't happened to us. And the reason for that is that people are coming to our site to search other content sources that they want to get to. And those other content sources, as it turns out, want people to get to them. So every time somebody comes to our site, as you know, when they click through, they go to a place that really wants that traffic in general. Where that doesn't tend to be true sometimes is with the really, really large sites that have big sources of traffic. But even there, we found that because the space is so competitive, that it's possible to build really great relationships with them. And while those relationships today are not formal relationships, we continue to engage in a dialogue with pretty much sites at all levels, including sites like Craigslist, that we have actively reached out to and talked to multiple times. So from our perspective, I think what we want to do is to be able to help the job seeker, but also be able to work with a lot of the other sites out there that themselves are working very hard to make sure that they get jobs onto their sites. So there really isn't, I think, a sense from us that we want to in some way keep those users there. I think that was the point that Michael made earlier. So as a result, I think we have a very, very good relationship with a lot of those sites. It's difficult for me to say what will happen there. I can tell you, for example, today that an increasing percentage of our database and a very significant percentage of our database actually comes to us not via crawl but via feeds. And that's probably the most significant statement I can make in terms of how complementary these sites see us to be.
Suranga, is there some kind of challenge in how you're getting content to your site?
Yeah, no, not really. I actually would sort of echo exactly what we've just heard in the sense that it's difficult, I think, for people who have some kind of inherent channel conflict, which is, I think probably the challenge that, I'm guessing here, but it's probably the issue that sort of AOL has to deal with right now in the sense that they have a video search capability in our space, but at the same time they have a lot of video content themselves because they're part of Time Warner. So, if you do a search, do you put the CNN clip ahead of the, somebody else clip, or the Fox News clip, let's say? And we've never tried to do that. We're trying to be a gateway. We want to be a place that feeds you to somewhere else that watches the video. Playing video is a very expensive thing. The storage of video, the hosting of it, the bandwidth involved in it it's non-trivial from a funding point of view. So we don't want to do that too much if we can possibly help it. We'll do some little things, but we'd rather you went and saw it somewhere else. So because of that, we have a pretty good relationship. I mean, we've actually, as well as sort of broad-based spidering of the web, we have something like 80 or 100 explicit partnerships where people, actually feed things to us on a regular basis to make sure their content gets into our system. So I think it's a pretty good sign for how happy people are to sort of spider, are happy for us to spider their content. One other thing I was going to bring up was the previous question out there about metadata, because it's an area which really frustrates me. Metadata is one of these things which, if it worked, would be amazing and create a utopia that we'd all be, happy and run around in. But it's just amazing how badly it's actually implemented. In our world, the big metadata standard that everyone's talking about this month is Media RSS, which has its faults. For a start, it's attached to RSS, which works for things that happen over time, but not for things that don't. But putting aside that kind of argument that I have with it, it's amazing how even the organisations that are heavily involved with it, for example, a large web company that isn't Google, that's based near here, who are heavily involved in it, yet still won't do everything in it, for whatever reason. And I'm not actually blaming them for being difficult or anything like that. It's the natural reality of the fact that it's very difficult to define the standard that's both shareable and effective and well-defined, yet works in all these different contexts. And that's why we've seen that there really isn't very much standardization. So where there is, we embrace it whenever we can because it makes our lives much, much easier. But the reality seems to be that it just doesn't, there is no single method standard that seems to work for everybody. The other big problem is that even if you do find something that's so broad-based and simple that it could work for everybody, you immediately get, particularly with any kind of active vertical area like all of R3 are, you get immediate sort of spam effects, which are very, very difficult to combat. So, it's the same with web pages. If you remember the old web search engines, they used to use just the meta tags. That they used to search web pages based on the tags. It was this amazing thing when Alta Vista decided to read the whole page, and people was like, why would you need to read the whole page? And it became very obvious because otherwise people would just use the word sex over and over and over again in the meta tags, and that would get their page up. So, and we hit the same thing with our thing. I mean, it's amazing how if there's something big in the news right now, people on YouTube will tag their video with that term, even though it's got nothing to do with their video. So for that sort of reason, we are always inherently a bit suspicious of metadata, and that's why we'll try and go to the data itself if we possibly can.
I will just finish up with Michael, and then we can open it up for questions.
Sure.
So problems in how you're getting content.
Right. So I echo what the other panelists have mentioned. We haven't had any problem with crawling sites. In fact, all of them want more visitors to their website, so it hasn't been an issue. We also obey the robots protocol. So if a particular website doesn't want their site crawled, they could just put up a robots.txt file. So we honor that. So it hasn't been a problem for us.
And actually, the point about RSS, is that something that, it's kind of sort of the pull versus push to how you're trying to get your content to the people. Job alerts, for example, or if somebody is able to sort of subscribe to a particular feed for coming from a particular source or a particular type, is that something that you offer on your sites, or are you thinking about it?
Yeah, we do, and I think to us, technologies like RSS are really one step toward the fundamental fact that, frankly, I hate to say this within Google, but I don't really enjoy searching information. The relevant information should just come to me, and I think that's really the place where we all want to move to, and ideally it should come to me by just knowing about me as opposed to me having to specify that. So these technologies that are coming up, I think, are one step in that direction.
Suranga?
Yeah, I mean, we use RSS for exactly that that sort of feature. Any search can be turned into an RSS feed. And in addition, we have a bunch of sort of suggestion technologies which will hopefully deliver the right thing to you at the right time and so on. So, but it's still early days. I think there's a lot more to go in that direction, to be honest.
I think that's true. I mean, it's kind of how you want search to work for you kind of a thing. There's a concept of you can go to a huge mall and just go through aisles and aisles of information and be able to pull out the one you like. Or you could go to a smaller store where you just sort of look for information and point and sort of filter it down and say, I want that in that color and that particular size, and be able to get that. So it's definitely a question of how do you want search to work for you. I know somebody had a question out there, but we can open it up for questions at this point.
Guys, so Google's often reported as saying 70% effort in core search, 20% in related areas, and then 10% spaghetti. And I'm wondering if you guys could maybe talk about what your percentages are there, both now and maybe steady state, once you see yourselves getting to maturity.
I'll give you a slightly different philosophy. We believe that in order to solve the job search problem, and fundamentally what our company is doing is literally walking into work every day, making a list of job seeker pains and going down the list and solving them. That's pretty much what the business is. And we really believe that the business stands on 4 legs: search, tools, content, and community. Because we are a small company, we tend to have a singular focus, and so we very much look like a search engine today. But as you can imagine, when it comes to tools and various applications, you'll see us do a number of things in that area, particularly related to resumes. And as you go forward with content and community, you'll see us create additional functionality. I mentioned earlier that there's a number of interesting areas of content, whether it's salary data or benefits data or company data or others that we have small forays into today. The community part of it is very important for us because, first of all, job search is a very, very lonely process, as I'm sure many of us know. And secondly, even today, half of all hiring is done via referrals. Simply Hired was actually the first. We got some coverage right when we launched because we were the first to integrate with LinkedIn and really blend job search with social networking. And you'll see us do a number of other things in that area. So we really believe that those are the 4 components. I didn't specify the percentages, but I think you'll see us have a very singular focus on one of those areas at a time until we get it to a point where we're happy with it, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, so we're 100% focused on shopping search to become the best shopping search engine, and within the shopping search, we invest heavily in our core research engine. That's web-based crawler-based search engine, and we also invest heavily in continue to improve our compressor shopping or the product search engine. We're also investing in the social community shopping thing that I mentioned earlier. So I think these 3 are sort of core legs to our offering: the research, shop, and social community as it relates to shopping.
Yeah, so again, I guess like the last 2, we're very focused on our particular vertical. We really do only things in the video space. The 3 ways that we see people sort of access our system and use it are through search, through browsing, and through suggestion. So search is obviously you know what you want, go to the box, you type for it, you start looking for it. Browsing is you turn up the site, you don't really know what you want, but you start clicking on things randomly or semi-randomly and then get more focused. And then suggestion is where you don't even come to the site talks to you and says, hey, I know you should look at this. Right now, because video search is still pretty early, if I were forced to put a percentage on things, I'd probably put it on sort of 80-10-10, so it's very heavily focused towards search. But I think over time that will shift. In general, I think the web is going to move more towards that suggestive type model. I agree with the comment made earlier that it's insane that we always have to, that our web experiences keep starting at, a little box and a search button. It'd be much better if steps started getting pushed to us. So I look forward to suggestion becoming a bigger part of that.
I have a question for Gautam, Simply Hired. I'm just curious. I haven't been to your site, and I will. But one of the things that's frustrating is oftentimes when you go to Monster and other those places, you click on a job and then it takes you to that company's site, and all of a sudden they want you to fill out a big thing. And I mean, do you get around that, or do you just do the same thing in the sense that maybe you provide more focused information from other other sites that feed it to you, and you have your own that you gather, but do you get around that aspect at all?
Sure, that's a very good question, because I think entering in your information again and again is an incredibly frustrating process. From our perspective, I guess the simple answer I would give you is, if you'll be patient with us, just wait and see. Simply Hired is going to make some pretty interesting announcements in that area. We believe that the sites that are out there today are very motivated to make sure that the application process is easier and it's more automated. And Simply Hired is actually moving down the path of being able to do some of that. So over time, in an ideal situation, you would actually be able to apply with a single click, because both sites know enough about you that you don't need to go any further. And I frankly don't see why that's not possible in the near term.
Right, because just a follow-up comment, it's a lot of times you go to some place and then it's like, okay, type in your username and password, and then, well, what is it for this one?
I guess I'll tell you that it's on our list of pains.
You had a question, Jeff?
Yeah, earlier Michael kind of said that Become.com, the research part is coming from the calling, whereas the shopping part is coming from the piece from the 5,000 merchants we have partnership with. I was wondering for Simply Hired and Blinkx.com what's the percentage of the results that we see on your site that is actually coming from calling and not from the piece that you have partners with? What's like, if we could address the Simply Hired and Blinkx.com.
Sure. So your question really goes to how much of it comes via feeds versus via crawling. While we don't put forward the exact percentages, it actually depends a little bit on how you measure, because there's secondary and tertiary feeds and so forth. I will tell you that we expect that before the end of the year, the vast majority of our data is going to come from feeds. So it's a very, very big area for us.
So are the other results mixed in together or separated out as?
So are you referring to?
Are you results and the feed results? If I'm searching for, say, a tech job, some part of it is coming from the call that your site does, and some part of it is coming from the feeds. So are the two results like separated out, or?
No, they're mixed together. Yeah.
When you say feeds, do you mean, are you making that definition based on an RSS technical feed, or are you saying a partner who's paid?
Or whether it's even paid feeds.
By the merchant.
Yeah. Okay. So by the way, when I refer to feeds, I'm not referring to paid feeds. That's not the implicit assumption that I'm making at all. The listings that we have are sorted by relevancy. So there's no concept today of the partner paying in there at all.
And we're the same, so none of our partners pay to be in the system.
So it's not that based on how much we pay?
No. So feeds for us mean that we have a relationship with the partner where we get the jobs via feed as opposed to having the crawler side. It has nothing to do with whether it's paid. It was used in a different context there.
Gautam, you made a very interesting comment that results should come to me instead of researching, spending all this time. And we all spend our time searching. Can you point any examples from history where this model might have worked out? I mean, we go and find cars will come to us, or go and find clothes. It would be nice if they just came to us at the right time. Right?
Sure. I think when I talk about that, I would argue that things do come to you. Anybody that uses a My Page, for example, or anybody that is going ahead and getting anything streamed within the RSS has things come to them. The issue that comes in is how much do you have to tell that site or that destination before things start coming to you, and how much do you have to tell them before meaningful things start coming to you. And I think the challenge for these sites is to say that without you having to go in and do a lot of modification or putting in a lot of explicit data, that the sites are actually smart enough to get you that information. And that's really the challenge I think that's ahead of us. In our space, we're a bit fortunate because what you have is job seekers actually putting together a fair amount of information and things like their resume. So we have a bit of a head start, if you will. But again, we think we ought to be able to look at a user's profile that already exists, or be able to essentially glean information about the user that already exists and bring the relevant information to it.
And maybe LinkedIn where you have your profile and then companies will come to you then.
Well, LinkedIn is one of our partners, so once again, I guess, wait and see.
So last person.
I have a question for Mr. Yang. You talked about the community aspect that you're developing on your site where, for example, a consumer can rate a particular company based on their customer support. Also, these companies are your clientele in a sense. Is there any way where that community-based ranking on their customer service will play into how you rank them on your site? In a sense, rewarding them for providing good customers by ranking them higher on your site so that they may receive more clicks, that sort of thing. Because I know that your user experience is probably very fine, but then going to a vendor and working with that vendor, sometimes the user experience falls off at that point, and they have bad results. And I've seen in the rankings where that happens.
Right. In fact, the merchant's reputation is one of the factors in our ranking algorithm for product search, so it's already built into the system. On the merchant ratings and reviews, we do two things. We will aggregate different merchant ratings that are already out there from like opinions or BizRate, and also provide our own users' reviews and ratings so that people will be able to look at different ratings so that they get many different angles to a particular merchant so that it's not biased by any particular company. So yeah, merchant reputation and how good their service is a factor in how we rank them so that the merchants that provide better services and have higher reputation will rank higher than merchants that are not.
How do you evaluate the services part?
So we have a small team of people in the company who actually evaluate all the merchants that we have a relationship with, and we have 7 different criteria that we look at.
And the reputation part, I'm guessing, is from the ratings that the users give, or is it?
Right. There are many factors that we look at. We look at their return policy, whether their site looks very professional, and whether it's there are many factors that we look at.
I have a practical question for Michael. I've been shopping on the internet with Price Grabber for the last couple of years. I see a lot of similarity between your shopping features and Price Grabber. So tell me, what are the reasons why consumers would use your site versus Price Grabber?
Right. So we offer this research capability where you could get product reviews and buying guide information that is not available on Price Grabber or any other comparison shopping site.
I'm talking about the shopping part.
On the shopping part, we have local shopping that's not available in Price Grabber or other places. So if you want to look at a product at a local store, then we allow that, and it's not available on any of the other comparison shopping sites. So that's one major feature, and we're going to be launching additional features that are pretty unique and differentiated from other sites.
But I think they have a lot more than 5,000 stores.
My recollection is that other comparison shopping sites have anywhere between 3,000 to 5,000. So that's about the number of merchants that other leading comparison shopping sites. So we're very comprehensive.
Thank you.
So my question is, as Gautam was saying, more companies will get data from feeds, from all these feeds, from all these sites, and get data. You don't need to crawl. Do you see that as a trend happening more for the other companies? That you'll get feeds from the sources?
Or your competitors? Is it
Actually, so I think the trend is, as I mentioned earlier, get the feed if that makes sense. That's the structured data, or crawl the web if that makes more sense. So I think it depends on the kinds of vertical and kinds of application, who the users are. So I think it's important to take a look at what the user is looking for and how can you best provide that information, and go from there rather than just saying, well, I'm only going to deal with feed or crawl results.
Yeah, I think that in general the trend is correct. We'll see more feeds over time. There are a couple of reasons why feeds don't always work. One is historical term. So in our space, for example, there's lots of videos that got put up there a long time ago, and particularly things like university sites and so on that are interesting but aren't in feeds. So you can't really throw that aspect away entirely. The other thing that's interesting about feed is that a lot of sites are using feeds as a sort of marketing tool more than they are a true exposure of all of their content. And that's even true of fairly Web 2.0 type companies. So, for example, a lot of video sharing sites have RSS feeds you can subscribe to, but they'll just be like the top 10 or 15 videos on their site. It won't be everything on the site. So if you want to be comprehensive, you almost always end up having to crawl.
And then just to follow up, if all these feeds exist, does that stop a barrier to entry for competitors? If you get most of the data you have?
So the barrier to entry to like shopping engine is how do you sign up 5,000 merchants? Because that's sort of
say feeds exist, say feeds are out there.
I'm sorry?
As more and more merchants and people start giving feeds, anyone can get access to the data.
The simple answer is no, because getting access to the data is only one part of the problem. So beyond that you have the way you analyze the data, the way you collate the data and relate it to each other. I mean, hearing before about the job search stuff, the fact that it's not just being able to search for jobs that are out there, right? It's about integrating that with everything else that's relevant to that particular search experience. In our case, it's about not just reading the metadata that people give you, but also going beyond that and watching the video and figuring out what's going on inside it. So it definitely makes it easier, but it by no means makes it trivial.
Here, question.
I had a question for Mr. Godhwani in regards to job searching. In fact, I'm in the middle of a job search right now, and one of the problems I find with a lot of sites is that they pigeonhole you into one particular job type or description on your resume. A lot of them will allow you to put 5 resumes online, and you put one that's active. And I may have 3 different job positions that I would like to open myself up to on the market. Is that a problem, for example, with Simply Hired, or can you post more than one job type, more than one resume, and have a viable chance of getting job offers?
Sure. Simply Hired just released the first of its products that I guess I will say goes the other way. To date, what we were doing was allowing you to search jobs and effectively pull jobs to you. We just released a product where you can actually take your resume and push it out to the various sites that are relevant for you, or I should say push your resume out to the sites that are relevant for you. Over time, as you can imagine, we're going to enhance that so that you can push multiple copies and actually manage multiple copies of your resume. So to us, it's very natural that you would find more than one opportunity compelling and that you would position yourself differently for those opportunities. But I think that a lot of the sites today not only don't allow you to do that, but they don't make it very easy for you to do that. And I think that's the bigger issue. I would suspect that and I would go so far to say that I think if some of the people were to go and actually use some of these products in detail, they would find that, yeah, as you said, it's very difficult. Yeah. And so for us, it's I think critical to release something that actually is easy to use and recognizes that in fact you'll find multiple opportunities compelling and you'll position yourself in multiple ways.
Did anyone have a question?
I just have a general question for all of you guys. It looks like all of your search applications are very sophisticated. Do you use any third-party like search platform? I know Google has that, and there's a lot of search platform providers. And if not, why do you choose to use a homegrown approach?
So in our case, there isn't any search engine platform that we could buy that works for us. There are a few enterprise search companies out there, but that's a very, very different technology for different application than what we're doing. So we had to create our own search engine platform, starting from crawler to indexing system to ranking algorithm. And it's in fact sort of a new generation search engine technology to sort of Google and Yahoo's technology that's already 8 to 10 years old. And it's part of our competitive advantage as a company that we keep this and control it. We have a lot of PhDs working on this kind of technology that gives us an advantage in the business.
We're actually built completely on open source platforms. We've had to make a pretty substantial investment on our own. And a lot of the technology of the company beyond search also goes into data extraction. And that's an area where we've actually created a fair amount of innovation. And a lot of the patents of the company are in that area as well.
Yeah, I mean, there is no platform that could do what we need it to do. And, frankly, we wouldn't have gone into business doing what we do if there was already a platform that did it. It wouldn't make any sense. So the reason we do what we do is because we noticed that nobody else was doing this kind of thing as well as it could be done. So while we might use components of technology, whether it's open source or licensed or whatever, to do certain bits, the overall platform is ours.
Oh no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So this is for Michael again. We mentioned that we asked where are data coming from, and in your screen it's divided into search and fed. And do you also have intelligence on where people go, and can you disclose this? I mean, do people tend to get to your site and click on the search side, or do you tend to click on the other side? Successful.
Right. So I don't think we made that information public, but we obviously get extensive use on both research results as well as shop results. And also, it depends on whether the user comes directly to our site, the organic traffic, versus some other traffic that we get through other sources. So there's a significant usage on both crawl results as well as feed results.
Do you see a trend?
It's stayed pretty much the same. So we don't see any one particular side pulling away. So they're both I think equal ratio from the beginning of the launch.
Thanks.
Gautam, you talked about the problems of creating multiple resumes and creating lots of data before you can actually search for a job. But there's also a reverse problem of anonymous search. I mean, especially in the job market, there's a lot of times where people want to do anonymous searches. They don't want to post anything about themselves. How do you give relevant data to such people?
That's probably one of the issues that's going to be solved longer term. But what we're finding is I think one of the benefits of vertical search is that by definition you have a huge amount of context. And so when a user does a search on a vertical site, they're essentially saying the exact channel they want to go down. And as a result of that, our ability to tune that search also is far higher because, again, we're dealing with a much more limited set. I would tell you that that's a problem that's going to take a long time to solve. And I think users are going to end up allowing these sites to get information at different levels and in different ways. And for us, we have a privacy policy that's probably stricter than most sites. So we're certainly going to be very, very careful about what we do. But at the same time, I would say that even today, just with keyword and location, something as simple as that, we find that most of the time users are specifying their occupational category and their zip code, which is a pretty significant starting point compared to what you would do, say, on Google.
You had a question back there?
Yes. Do you have any research and or insight into what the percentage of jobs that are actually filled through the use of the internet?
There's insight. There's surveys that are done into how effective the job boards are. Today, I mentioned earlier, half of all hiring is done via referrals. About 6% of hiring is done via the big job boards. About 15 to 20% of recruitment is online from a total dollar standpoint.
Do you have a question?
What do you have, we talked about barriers for entry. What about from an IP protection? Have you both filed provisional patents? Do you actually have patents? Can you give me a little understanding from that?
Sure. We did file a provisional patent, and we actually went ahead with 2 patent applications, and we're filing a 3rd one pretty soon. And intellectual property protection is very important because there's some novel ideas. It's a new invention about ranking billions of web pages that is very different than how Google's PageRank does it. So we invest in hiring the best IP patent attorney to work with us in drafting the document and going through the filing process. So that's very important to us.
We are pursuing patent protection as well. As I mentioned, I think the data extraction area is one area that's very big for us. And there's a few other patents, but less emphasis on search. There's a few search patents but not very many.
Yeah, the same. We're pursuing patents mainly on the extraction or indexing aspect of things. That's where we sort of do the most special stuff. There is also some stuff that we'll be going into, which we've kept the tabs on so far, about how we rank relevance in video, because it's very different to the data.
So vertical search is a narrow field. Every a few companies in each of these space. Do you sense a consolidation or one winner take all? And then also, does that lead to exit strategies like IPO, acquisition? It may not be that big a market.
So in the shopping vertical, the market is about $1.5 billion. It's a big vertical, and there are few large players. Many of them got acquired the last couple of years. Like eBay acquired Shopping.com, and Scripps acquired Shopzilla. PriceGrabber was acquired by Experian. I think it's a large enough vertical. There is a room for multiple players, and it is pretty competitive. But I think company could do well as an independent entity with an eye toward going on IPO, or partner up with a larger entity if that makes the most sense for the company.
For me, it's the third time I'm trying to build something from scratch, and every time you go through one of these processes, from time to time, somewhere in the corner in dark rooms, founders and management teams have these discussions, and usually they'll happen right after significant milestones are achieved, one way or the other. And probably I'd say we've had our share of those conversations. It's kind of natural, but we try not to focus on it. In general, I think if markets consolidate, and when they happen, it's extremely apparent. Often, because of strategic value, there's significant inefficiencies that shareholders of companies love to exploit. And whether that's going to happen in our market or not is difficult to tell. You just kind of take it as it comes to you. Day to day, the sheer number of things coming at us, I just don't see how people have the time, frankly, to spend a lot of time on it.
Yeah. We actually got into video search because we think it's going to be a lot bigger than it is today. We still think that video is going to be the sort of dominant data type or content type on the web, and in that sense, it's a big enough market for us to be independent and not have to consolidate into something else. As you've heard, it's one of these things that comes up every now and again, and particularly when you do something which gains lots of attraction, you get lots of attention from people and so on. But it has to be right. We sat down because we wanted to build this properly and build it ourselves and do it ourselves, and it would have to be really the strategically the right thing for the company and what it's trying to achieve for us to take some kind of route like that.
We'll take one more question and then we'll have to wrap up.
Yeah, and I'm interested in the mobile strategy of your companies. If you have a mobile strategy, how it looks, and what's the plan for the next 2 years in the mobile area?
So our service works very well for devices like Tray or BlackBerry that have some mini browsers built in, and a screen that's sufficiently large enough, and a little keyboard that you could actually type in without spending a long time trying to work with a numeric keypad. Beside that, cell phone carriers control the gateway to the mobile devices, and therefore it's not practical for us to spend a lot of dollars or hours trying to support mobile devices for 5 different carriers. So our strategy is to continue to support any kind of handheld devices that have browsers, mini browser, and a screen large enough, and has a little keyboard that you could actually type in something. And I use my Treo for shopping for things, price check when I'm in Fry's or even Best Buy, just to make sure that I'm getting the best deal. And it works very well.
I feel like sometimes the mobile space is one of those things that gets talked like the viral space does, where you think everything should be on a mobile phone. We did a partnership with Nokia a while ago, and we brought jobs to mobile phones, and we're experimenting in that area. But last I checked, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think about browsing jobs on my cell phone. I mean, I'm sorry, but I just want to be real that I don't see it. So you know, you can try different things, you can experiment. At the end of the day, Simply Hired is going to look at applications that really solve problems. And I do feel like someday there will be mobile devices that will have compelling applications in the area of job search. I don't think today is that day. I feel like downstream you're going to see us do some interesting things, but I just, you know, some things, as you pointed out, are just not that viral. Other things are just not built for mobile platforms as much. And from a Simply Hired perspective, I actually do believe, you know, in terms of getting real-time access to data, those applications will develop, but it's going to take some time.
Suranga?
The thing that we see with mobile is that, first of all, you know, we're about video, and today in our primary market, which is the US, you know, most devices just don't have the technical capability or the speed of network connection to actually do anything that exciting with video. So for that reason, it's, again, not really a problem that needs to be solved right now. Even when that does get fixed, it's slowly being fixed. Now, you know, there are people who have the right sort of devices out there now. What we've seen is that the issue of the networks. You know, basically, content on phones is quite heavily controlled. And you know, generally speaking, even in markets like, say, Europe, where you have more advanced technical capabilities, the content is being limited to a very small amount of content. You know, so in the UK right now, there's a huge push, as one of the networks there is doing a lot of content on phones. But if you actually go down to it and look at it, there's only about 5 or 10 clips that you can actually watch. And suddenly, search doesn't become that important when you've only got 5 or 10 clips. So from that point of view, it's not something that we need to pursue right now. We're talking to a number of the manufacturers and the sort of operating system level people in the phone market to make sure that, you know, what we do is compatible with what they're doing. But right now, you know, commercially and technically, the market isn't really there. It's not really ready.
I think we need to wind down. I'll shoot one last question to each of the panelists. Besides your own vertical space, which is, I guess, an emerging space that you'd bet your money on? Okay, not bet your money on, but bet some part of your money on. Not all of it. Michael, is there, besides shopping and job search and video search?
Yeah, I think that medical search is one area that's still, we've done better.
I guess I won't give a straight answer. I will say that the issue with vertical search today is that it ends up just being a starting point, and I think we need to get it to a point where you actually go through and complete the entire transaction, where the process is so integrated, where, as the gentleman pointed out, you actually can apply with a single click, or that you can go through and purchase the product in such an integrated way that you're not having to waste your time getting acquainted with many, many sites. So I think that level of integration to me is going to be the most exciting development. I think you're going to see even more specialized verticals within these vertical areas that you're seeing today, which I think is equally exciting. And from a job board perspective, the big development in our space besides vertical search is actually niche job boards. If you've seen, for example, all of the latest blogs that are sprouting up, you know, on various different association sites, not the least of which is this one, where there's a job board coming up at the end of this week. It's these super specific niche boards. And so I think that level of specialization, being able to complete the transaction, is what I'm much more excited about.
And I guess that's also keeping in terms of the buzzword of long tail, because that's what it's ending up to be.
Yeah, that's really what it's ending up to be.
Suranga, any particular?
Yeah, forgive me for being slightly facetious, but the search engine, the vertical search engine that I'm really looking forward to is you know, thing search or object search. Pretty soon, most things we own will have RFID tags inside them, and you know, finally be able to Google your car keys, which to me will be an incredible.
Thanks to the panelists for a great session, and thanks to the audience.